Hi, welcome. My name is Dale McCluskey, and on this video I'm going to explain what's called the isolate dominance method. And this method uses the leash to help to interrupt and bring your dog into a follower state of mind. So to explain the technique, what you'll find dogs are expressing a level of challenge. What you're going to use is the leash. Okay, this technique works off of using a leash. Okay, and the leash, the type of leash that you want to use, it can be a leather, or right here this is a nylon. Okay, a nylon type of a leash. And what you want to use is you'll want a leash that's approximately 4 feet. 3.5 feet long, because you want the ability to create a little bit of some distance at times, especially when the dog is going onto their back. You're going to create some distance, because what you're doing is you're allowing the leash to do the work. Okay, it's just I'll explain this technique kind of just like kinetics. Okay, and so the length of the leash itself, okay, is going to bring focus. It's going to target your dog's decision-making process. It brings everything, but what it does is bring everything to a pinhead. So when I say kinetics, it's kind of like if you've seen the commercial, it shows the elderly lady using it's a little fulcrum device to lift up the refrigerator. Okay, and showing how easy it is to lift and move things by using this little, and you'll see it's like a little fulcrum device, a little plastic or whatever piece of device made of some sort of a substance, plastic, like a plastic type thing. But anyway, she puts it under, she kind of pushes on one end and the other end doesn't work. Well, this is the same type of thing. What you'll find is when you understand how to use the leash properly, it will do the work for you. Okay, and that way you're not, a lot of techniques here, especially even with this technique, it's kind of really slick once you understand how to use the leash properly, because again, when your dog is going onto its back or it's offering challenge even near beside you, okay, you're going to put the leash out to the side, and the idea here is to keep that away from you. Okay, keep challenge away from you so it's not coming on to you. But again, when the dog is trying to stop you from basically what is like a type of protest, they want to stop you from leading their mind, they're going to kick up. Okay, and this kicking up part, there's certain ways the challenge will happen. Okay, one of them is, again, when you use a leash for the technique, you want to use, again, 3 to 4 foot leash, because there's times you want to use that length. Okay, the full length of the leash. Especially when, like I said, when they go on their back, you're going to use it in a way that represents authority, but it's kinetic. So 3 or 4 foot leash, and again, there's 2 different ways I'll use it. The dog is stopping. Okay. Resisting. Okay, it's resisting by stopping, or going onto its back. Okay. So what you'll see is, again, this usually comes out when you're leading the mind. Okay, it could start as trying to walk your dog on the leash, or just when you're using the technique in your house on the leash. You'll see the dog going. It'll try to kick its feet in, so to speak, and stop the walk. Okay. So this is the thing about understanding these interplays too, when your dog's reaction to, as you start to target its decision making, you start to put authority over its mind through this connection to the leash, the reactions you get, okay, will give you a clue as to how much power your dog is holding. I mean, that's the whole thing. So the resistance levels, you'll see the mind, the dogs, and this is how he kind of describes, kind of like the mind kind of implodes in on itself. It kind of, when the dog is resisting and offering challenge, the mind kind of crumples up, and that's why you'll see, sometimes you'll see the leg lift on the front paw come up off the ground on the dog. Okay, you'll see Some dogs, younger dogs will yelp, okay, they'll act like they're hurt. And I'll talk about this more in my video on fear reactions with dogs, and talk about how it's really opposite to what, you know, the physical representation of that will lead us into believing a false interpretation of behavior through, you know, the physical response, but the solution is still the same way. So, but when you're, again, the mind is reacting, so, you know, it's like a fight or flight thing going on. So dogs, when this resistance level happens, especially when the dog is trying to stop from being led, okay, and what it'll take a form of, again, it's like a protester with a picket sign. The protester isn't giving up, they're taking a different form of resistance. Well, that's what's happening here. So when the dog starts to stop, starts to resist being led, and then ultimately some dogs actually go around to their back. So what they're doing is they're using their weight, okay, they're using their body weight to make it stop, okay, to make authority stop, okay, and they're trying to use that to their advantage. So what we do with this technique is it's just like if you've seen the martial art, and you can research this, you know, Keto, you know, I'm involved in martial arts, I've been most of my life, but so you understand body kinetics and how, you know, how the body will move certain ways. The Keto uses that. It's like you know, it goes up and down and side to side, but there's certain ways the body will move, but what you're doing is you're actually using the opponent's force against them. You're not going kind of force on force, okay? What you're doing is you're redirecting that force. And so how we use the leash actually takes advantage of this type of kinetic movement, okay? And the type of, and how we're using the leash even with letting it go out, and then we're going to put resistance through it. We're using that type of kinetic energy to our advantage, so that we're not having to, you know, it's all technique. So you don't have to be a strong person. You just have to understand the concepts. Okay, understanding the concepts is what really is going to give you an advantage. But here again, the leash length, you want the right leash length. The dog goes into when the response is coming off, the interplay is I'm leading the mind, the dog's resisting it, and now the dog's going on to its back. So what you're going to do, okay, when that happens, okay, the technique with this isolate dominance method, when the dog immediately offers resistance, starts to lock in, okay, there's a moment, it's kind of like a water break moment, okay, when you know the kind of wave is cresting in from the ocean and it's about to break on, crash down, you kind of know when to lock this technique in. Okay, or whether you can break through and just keep going. But again, you have to know, kind of play off how your dog is reacting those levels to know when to employ this technique. Okay, there's kind of a feeling out part, because you want to be careful not to employ it just too much so it causes almost like a stalemate. Okay, this technique, what it's meant to do is employed right, the dog will start resisting less, because again, it's part of you becoming stronger up here. Okay, this technique isn't, the technique represents you changing. Okay, so the technique is like a temporary thing where if it's employed right, it means your dog is going to just start to give up and start to, you know, less challenge is going to be offered as you go along. You shouldn't have to employ this technique as often if it's done right, because overall you're changing the dog's decision-making process. But this technique, you will employ it though at the start of the role changing process. Okay, it's very, very effective. But basically what you're doing is, okay, when the dog is stopping, resisting, here's the leash length, okay, this is you, stick man, okay, and I'll draw a smile on your face, because you probably aren't going to be smiling a whole lot the first day or two when you're doing this, but it's not about whether you're smiling. No, it's not about that. It's about understanding the technique, okay, what it does. Your dog here, little legs up in the air, okay. It's on its back, okay. Here's the collar around its neck. Okay, like I said, when I'm using this technique, I'm using just a flat, straight collar, and here's the leash attachment, okay. That's the attachment, okay. So the dog resists and starts to offer challenge, goes onto its back. what you're going to do immediately, okay, you're going to lock in, okay. In fact, what you're going to do is, as the dog starts to walk, it starts going back on its back, you want to actually feed some leash length out, okay. You want to actually come and work off the total length of the leash. But as you're letting the line kind of feed out, like a fishing line feed out, right away you want to start to project authority through the leash. You want to keep this leash really tight, okay, because the idea here is we're going to be targeting, okay, we're going to be targeting, okay, we're going to bring authority through this leash, okay, because this is communication, okay, this is communication going back and forth, okay, we're communicating, we're saying to the dog, no, I'm communicating, I'm telling you that you're coming up, okay, but, okay, how we use this technique is we're not going to drag the dog, okay, this is the other thing, explain the technique. What this technique symbolizes, and, if you've ever seen a tug of war, okay, with both sides, pulling on a game of tug of war, because this will explain the technique fairly good. What it does is you get one side, say there's 5 or 6 people on one side, there's 5 or 6 on the other side. And what it is, because here's part, physical, even with a lot of stuff, I believe, physical is less of a part than the psychological part. Yes, you got to be in shape, but really how you think plays such a key role in everything that even here in the game of tug of war, as soon as that side starts to feel that it could be the bigger guy on the team or whatever, as soon as you feel that guy starting to collapse or starting to falter, okay, the other team starts to all kind of give up. That's how it goes down. As soon as, if you're looking for that, you're looking for momentum and that type of psychology involved. As soon as the other team is pulling this way, and that team starts to feel they're getting pulled just a bit, and that guy's slipping a little bit at the front, or the guy at the back is, fumbling a little bit, the whole thing starts to collapse. The whole house of cards, okay, start to, collapse, okay. Now here, this is how this technique here, okay, works. Okay, it works off this, because there's connection going on, okay. Understand, the leash is really what's going on is really here, okay. It's communication going through both mind and body. So the dog really is connected that way. So when you're doing this technique right away, your goal is to be a pillar. Okay, you have to be, okay, you got to be the pillar. Okay, you're the pillar. Okay, you're solid. Okay, you're the team where you're going to collapse the mind. Okay, that's what you're doing here. So again, using kinetic, so by using the 4-foot length, the whole length of the leash, okay, what it does by letting that leash go out fully, and you're locked in, so you're going to be locked in, you can lean in a little bit, but you're going to bring that authority, and so what you're doing is you're going to target right here, pinhead. It's going to be very uncomfortable for your dog. Okay, it's always coming through that collar, and what you want to work out too, there's a sweet spot here. When that dog's on its back, okay, you want to kind of work, you want to move around the dog, okay, until you find that sweet spot. There's a sweet spot here, kinetically, that will be more uncomfortable than a different point. So as I'm moving around, of course, when I'm working this technique, I'm using the 4-foot length, okay, because again, it's a fulcrum effect, it's kinetic, and it's like pressure point, and this isn't about hurting your dog, but definitely they have to feel it, okay. It should be uncomfortable enough that what's going to happen is it's going to raise up, kind of like Lazarus coming up from the dead, okay. They're going to raise up on their feet, and when they do, you immediately bring that line right in and bring them into a sit position. Not asking them to sit, you're just bringing them into the sit position, and then the push-pull, and you're going to keep your technique going. So here, this technique is to interrupt that. When it's done right, again, very important that you don't give your dog any slack. Okay, if your dog feels slack, even as you're letting this go out, you're letting it go out, but it's going to be tight. Even a second or two delay, where that dog feels like, okay, I don't have anything coming through. Okay, I'm good. That will encourage your dog to do it more, because that's the whole thing. Once they're so desperate to hold power that even in this interplay, even a second or two delay with not being, with being them having kind of a momentary spot where they can just kind of they can kind of have that release. They're going to do that. That's why dogs will try to get out of their collar. Once they get out of their collar one time, they're going to try to get out of their collar 3 or 4 or 5 times because there's hope. Okay, that gives them hope. Okay, the goal here is you're taking away all hope. There's no hope. Okay, so as soon as they lock in, okay, they're locked in. I'm immediately bringing it. They immediately should start feeling it right down their neck. Even while I'm letting the leash go out, there's a technique to get pressure, but it's tight, and they're going to go on their back, and then it's going to get tighter. So what you're doing here, you're bringing their mind into a state of collapse. Okay, so what you're doing is, and this is what the whole thing here with this technique. Okay, I'm going to erase this. They're at a point of collapse. Okay, so. What it does is it actually, it's like a domino effect, okay? But they're almost at point of dragging your dog, okay? But we're not dragging the dog, okay? So what it is just like at that collapse point, just like I explained with the tug of war, the team of tug of war here, okay? They're collapsing, okay? They know it's done, they know it's finished. So this technique, what it does is it brings them to the point of not quite almost dragging them, but because at that drag point, that resistance drag point, when you're putting enough pressure on their mind, it's very uncomfortable. Especially when you find what I call the sweet spot. And the sweet spot you have to look for, but you have to angle your dog, that leash around just so it's coming, it's going to really get almost into the corner of the neck area. Okay, that's going to be more uncomfortable for the dog because he's going to be moving, shifting, and moving around on his back and trying to go like this. You know, you have to let that leash around, and you have to practice, but there's a sweet spot here that's really uncomfortable. Once you find it, they'll come up pretty quick. Okay, you can kind of sense when that's uncomfortable, but you have to make it uncomfortable for the dog. Because the thing is, that's what's happening, it's a negative. Okay, this whole experience is a negative. The dog doesn't win. Okay, it's not getting anything from me. It just it's just a technique. Once it goes there, I'm going here. Okay, all you're doing is you're responding to them. But when I'm responding, okay, that's the thing. I'm in a position of leadership always. I'm always, communicating and leading the mind. So even if the dog is resisting, there's no hope. Okay, for that dog to hold on to that state of mind. Okay, I'm going to just put pressure. So what you're doing is you're pressuring the mind. Okay, the mind goes this way, I go that way. Goes that way, I go this way. Okay, it's like I'm always, because that's what I'm doing. So the resistance level. So even if a dog is, really kicking up beside you on the leash, you take the leash out and put the leash away from your body to you want to keep that energy, that challenge away from you, just slightly out away from you, and then just redirect it in, and then back into another sit. Okay, but I think I'm kind of letting the steam come out of the kennel, so to speak, with the dog beside me. And jumping up, and you're not trying to hold the dog into these positions tight because we don't want undue challenge. But when I say let the steam come out, that doesn't mean that we're giving the dog any sense of that they're leading anything. Okay, if I'm going that way, that dog has a sense that I'm bring them back in. Everything works into another moment. So even this position with kinetics, everything, whatever happens, it's just like Aikido, the martial art. Okay, you defeat your opponent by using their own force against them. So that's all I'm doing here. I'm just calmly, just smooth and fluid, and just right back into a position, right back in. They go on their back, a lock in, methods applied, they're up on their feet, back into a sit. So just, you have to be comfortable back and forth, but, you want to remove, you always want to keep that communication going at the right wavelength, so to speak. Okay, how I'm communicating, always leading, interrupting, creating my moments. Okay, it's just smooth and fluid technique. So this technique is very, very effective. That's called isolated dominance method. That's what I call it. It's just a matter of getting really good with the leash. Again, it's a very effective technique. I encourage you to add it onto your in your arsenal, so to speak, and apply it, and it'll work. You'll be amazed. It works great. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope this video was helpful. I hope you have a great day.